My name is Tess and my mom works at Manulife in Toronto. Today I'm going to show you how to tie-dye. So I have 3 different shirts with me today. I have 2 brand new white shirts and an old white shirt with a bit of a graphic pattern on it. And so I'm going to try to show you 3 different designs on how you can tie-dye a t-shirt. You could also use these designs and techniques to tie-dye a sweater, sweatpants, a bandana, a hat, really anything you can imagine. Okay, let's get started. When you're tie-dyeing at home, it can be hard to gather all the materials, so I only have a few of them here with me myself, but I would recommend that you have a white garment of clothing to tie-dye, the tie-dye itself. I have 2 different types here from different companies. You're really going to need some elastic bands, and you're also going to definitely need a plastic bag to put it in afterwards. Some other things I'd recommend are a tie-dye solution. This one's kind of optional. I'm personally not going to use one today, but it helps the dye stay in the garment faster. And I might also recommend that you have a plastic covering, like a garbage bag, to go over the area that you're tie-dyeing on. For me, I'm tie-dyeing on an old table, so it's not going to matter, but you got to be really, really careful. Oh, and I would also recommend that you wear gloves while tie-dyeing. I unfortunately don't have any with me today, but let me tell you, the dye will stain on my hands. Okay, now we're ready to go. So the first design I'm going to show you guys how to do is on this shirt. So as you can see, it has a few little stains, but I'm hoping to cover these up with my new tie-dye creation. So this design that I'm going to do for this shirt is called the bullseye. And what you're going to want to do is to take the shirt and pinch it in the center and then hold it up like this. Now we kind of have a little long strip of fabric. And what we're going to do is we're going to use elastic bands to elastic off sections for the circles of the bullseye. So what these elastics are going to do is allow the space underneath them to be white space in the tie-dye, hopefully, and kind of section off which areas our colors are going to be. This is what I have after I've kind of elasticed off the stripes or the circles that are going to be in my bullseye design. So the 2 colors that I'm going to use for this design, I might use 3 actually. I'm going to use this red color, an orange, and a yellow. And I'm gonna start with the yellow, and I'm gonna try and really saturate, which means put a lot of the dye into this one top section. I'm gonna try and make it really, really yellow. So as you can see, that top part is now pretty yellow, and you know, I made some mistakes. The dye got a little past the area I wanted to go, but hey, it's okay, we're just having fun. So now I'm gonna go on to the second ring of my bullseye, and I'm gonna really saturate it, which means use a lot of dye, it with orange. Alright, so there's the second ring done, and now I'm going to go in with a red.
For this next layer.
Okay, so now I'm actually just gonna go in with a different color red to try and get this kind of rainbowish effect. I'm all done with my first bullseye design. As you can see, it looks like all of the shirt is covered in dye, but what we'll actually find is because of the way that I've folded it, there'll be still a lot of white areas, and some of the dye will also wash out. So now I'm just gonna go put this in a plastic bag and we're gonna let it sit. The time for which you're supposed to let it sit depends on which type of tie-dye you're using. Okay, so for this next shirt, we're gonna try a design called a swirl. And this is maybe one of the more classic tie-dye designs. And there's a few different ways to do it, but the way that I have learned is you're gonna stick your fingers and kind of pinch with a lot of your fingers at the point that you want to be the center. It doesn't necessarily have to be the middle of your shirt, but that's what I'm gonna do today. And then with this raised fabric right here, you're gonna pinch it and then twist your wrist so that, see how all that fabric gathered around it, kind of like a swirl. And then you're gonna reposition and you're gonna twist it again, even tighter, and reposition, and then you're gonna twist it again. And then you might need to use your hands to get the rest of the shirt wrapped around. Okay, and once you have the shirt all swirled together as tight as possible, you're gonna use some elastics to try and hold that design together. And you're kind of gonna go like crisscrossed over it. Okay, so this is what my shirt now looks like after I have gathered the fabric into the spiral design and then elasticed it so that it's all held in place. This took me a little bit of time because I wanted to make sure that you could still see all these individual folds and they weren't getting covered up when I put the elastics on. So now our next step is to do the tie-dyeing. So the way that is most effective is to do an individual color in each one of these little pie slices almost. And that way it'll spiral quite nicely. I only have a few colors left, so I'm gonna kind of do the same color scheme as I was before and just kind of have fun with it. And for this one, you also have to make sure that you tie-dye both this side and the back side. Okay, so I'm done. This one has come out a lot sloppier than I was expecting. And I think that the reason for that is that I did not soak this fabric in a tie-dye solution before I did this dyeing. And so it made the dye a little harder to stick to this particular fabric. And also I was just using some leftover tie-dye I had around the house, so it kind of ran out on me. But if you wanted to try this design at home, I would recommend making sure that the centers have a lot of dye in them, because that'll be the place where it's most natural for the design to be the boldest. And to try and get all these white spaces that I couldn't because I simply ran out of dye. It looks like I did not take my own advice because my hands are dyed all over the place, but that is all right. I'm just gonna put this t-shirt in a bag and I'm going to try and wash the most of the dye off my hands. If this happens to you, it's okay. It'll come out in a few days, and in the meantime, you'll have some pretty crazy looking hands. So that's it for the main part about how to tie-dye a t-shirt. As you can see, I didn't really take my own advice because my hands got quite a bit of dye on them. But the next steps is to just put your tie-dye in a plastic bag like this and let it sit somewhere, maybe not right in direct sunlight or anything. So you're just gonna let it sit for the directed time as per the packaging of the specific tie-dye that you bought, and then you're gonna after that time has passed, you're going to put it in a washing machine by itself. Do not put anything else in there. You're gonna put it in a washing machine by itself with cold water, and it'll all wash out all the excess dye so that it won't stain anything in the future. Let it dry, and voila, your tie-dye is done. So here are the finished results. On the left we have the spiral, and on the right is the bullseye. This was so much fun to make, and I hope you guys are successful in your own tie-dyeing adventures. Thanks for listening.